Canada Bike Dude asks, what data would you suggest to display on your head unit when riding with the ASSIOMA pedal? I would suggest there are lots of things you could record. Let me just tell you what I use and why. First thing I record always is watts. How much power am I putting out right now? Instantaneous power output. You always want to know that. Normalized power. What's going on long term for my workout? What's going on as far as the metabolic system is being used? Normalized power is a good reflection of your metabolic system. How am I doing in terms of calories being expended? Heart rate is good to have on your handlebars, because I mentioned earlier in another question that dividing your normalized power by your heart rate gives you a data point called efficiency factor. And so knowing what's going on with your heart rate at the same time you're looking at your power is giving you a raw data reflection of efficiency factor. Duration, how much time have you been riding? That's obvious one that everybody wants to know. Is it 1 hour ride, 2 hour ride, whatever? TSS, training stress score. I would suggest if you don't have TSS, if you don't know what TSS is or don't have access to it, then I would suggest kilojoules. How much energy you're expending right now would be the other option for this. Intensity factor, how hard you're working as a percentage of FTP. Some workouts should be very easy, which means they should be something like below 60% of your FTP. That would be a 0.6 intensity factor. Some workouts should be quite hard. They should be 0.85 or higher of your FTP. That's another indicator then that you're doing a hard workout, and you're also doing an intensity which is appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish. And finally, the last thing I'd recommend having on your handlebars typically is distance. How many kilometers or miles have you traveled? And that's just mostly because it's a nice number to look at. Everybody wants to know how many miles are you doing anyway. My neighbor always asks me how many miles you do today. He doesn't care about how many hours I did or my intensity factor or TSS or anything else, just how many miles I did. So everybody wants to know the answer to that question. So it's the most basic one you'll have along with the others. I Ride Cannondale asks, how to train to lose weight. This is a real issue with lots of athletes is how much exercise do they need to do and what type of exercise do they need to do to lose excess body weight, body fat. Interestingly enough, the research doesn't support that there's really any advantage to exercise at all when it comes to body weight. It really comes down to what do you eat? That's the real issue. It's how much and what are the foods. In fact, there was a study that just came out of Baylor University in Texas this month, which again supported that concept, which has been around for a long time in the research. Somehow it never seems to leak out to the people in the world. It just kind of stays within the ivy towers of the universities. But the key to losing weight is making sure you do something about your nutrition. That's the key. Exercise doesn't have much to do with that. All it does, exercise creates more appetite. You come back in and you eat more because you've exercised. But reducing the amount of calories you take in or changing the source of those calories can have a big effect. And again, this just came out of just this month, out of a University of Baylor study that looked at that very issue, and they came to the same conclusion that every other research study on this same topic has come to. But I guarantee you this will be with us for forever and forever, is that can I exercise and somehow lose weight? Flow.pfei asks, what's the best way to improve your FTP? Well, that's the one question everybody wants to have the answer to, because we always use FTP as kind of a standard reference point for how fit we are. That's the one number which has become very commonly used to express fitness. I had a guy that wanted to ride with my group ride the other day, talking to him on the street on another ride. And one of the questions he had is, in your group ride, what's everybody's FTP? He wanted to know if he could fit in or not. That was the basic question he was asking me, because that's the number we've come to realize is very indicative of how powerful somebody is FTP. So what's the best way to improve it? Well, there's no single path to a better FTP. I can't give you a magic workout you can do that will produce a high FTP. It's just not going to work that way. Really, what it comes down to, you've got to train the whole body. The whole body needs to be trained, but there are two systems that I would suggest probably need more emphasis than the others. And there are like 6 systems I could be talking about here. We're talking about 2 of them. One is aerobic fitness. Keep coming back to aerobic fitness a lot when I talk with athletes about training, because that's very important. If you're going to do like a 20-minute test to determine your FTP, that takes an aerobic base. You're not going to do that if you're not going to be very good at FTP if you don't have the aerobic base to put out a 20-minute hard effort. If you don't have the power to do that aerobically, then you're probably never going to have a good FTP. So that's a starting place. So you have to have an aerobic base. The second thing is you have to have muscular endurance. So now I'm moving to the muscle as opposed to the heart and lungs and blood to talk about performance at this level. What we need to be able to do with muscular endurance is get the muscles to the point that they can maintain a high power output for a long period of time, like 20 minutes, for example. So if you can do that, and the way you go about accomplishing that, this muscular endurance, is by doing longish intervals. I say longish because they're not extremely long, but they may be in the order of 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, even 20 minutes long. So we have these longer intervals we're doing that are being done at an intensity which is about a 7. On a 10 scale, 10 being as hard as you can possibly go, it's about a 7. So you're breathing hard, but you're right on the edge of how difficult this could be. If you go a little bit harder, you realize you're going to have to slow down later on. So you do it out on this threshold, which is about a 7 on a 10 scale. That's the other workout. So we do intervals, something like, let's say, 3 times 7 minutes at that 7 intensity on a 10 scale. That's roughly about your FTP, by the way, that's 7 intensity. So we're going to challenge your FTP by going up, doing intervals rather, could be on a hill, by the way, doing intervals which are at this intensity. And then we're going to take a very brief recovery. By brief, I mean 25% as long as the work interval was. So let's say you did an 8-minute interval. You're going to do then a 2-minute recovery. So 8 on, 2 off, 8 on, 2 off, 8 on, 2 off. Usually when you get up to around 20 to 30 to 40 minutes at the outside, that's adequate to improve your muscular endurance. And if you improve your muscular endurance, you're also improving your FTP. They blend nicely together. So 2 things, aerobic fitness and muscular endurance. Those are the 2 things we need to do primarily to improve your FTP.